Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccer rules.
Welcome back, folks. It's about payroll. I believe it's 195, 196, around there, right, Walt? Oh, no, we lost you. You muted yourself, sir, I think.
Look at that.
Walt
I'm meeting
hitting
myself.
buttons.
Thank
There
you for
we
paying
go.
attention, Brian. Yeah, so
Yeah.
man, 200 episodes. Happy to be here. We have a wonderful guest tonight. And with that being said, why don't you intro her, man?
Yes, our guest is Jennie Wallace. Got a lot of letters behind it. MS, CPA, CISA, CGMA, and most importantly, CEO and founder of Melody Advisory Services. And her whole lane is turning messy, duct tape, broken up process into clean, controlled, audit-ready operations. And I'm here to tell you because Jennie has advised us closely, and she is something. So,
Thank you.
no, you are. I'm joking, but you are extraordinary, and she's known for her risk-first approach to process improvement. Again, I can testify to that because efficiency without controls is just faster failure.
That's right.
And she says it best. She makes order out of process risk controls and audit chaos.
Mhm.
She's worked across first, second, and third lines of defense, so she understands how management feels, how audit thinks, and where the blind spots are. And here's why payroll should lean in. Jennie tells this story about a team pulling 2 payroll reports from the same period and getting 2 different headcounts, then fixing the number with a 30-year-old workaround. No reconciliation, no audit trail, and that number fed compliance reporting. That's the kind of quiet risk that sits in the background until it becomes a headline. So tonight, we're going to unpack Jennie's payroll professional story and how she get into payroll and why payroll is one of the most cross-functional risk hubs in the company and the practical ways teams can build controls that actually hold up under pressure. Please welcome Jennie Wallace.
Hello. Thank you so much. Really appreciate being
Yes.
invited to the podcast. Always nice
Oh
to
my
chat.
goodness, of course. Long time coming.
Yep.
Heard really
Yep.
great things about you, and I'm super
Well, thank you.
excited to
All
have
true.
finally met you
Sure.
and stuff. Yes.
Well, true. Only the good things, not the bad
Oh my
things. Those are not true.
Oh my gosh.
So tell us, how'd you get to Melody Advisory Services?
Okay.
What brought you to opening your own business?
So, like I said, I was born on a Thursday. No, sorry. So I went to school for accounting and computer information systems. So I double majored. And I started my career at PwC doing
That
audits,
tracks.
external, business process. And I spent most of my career up until I started my own business doing process improvement, but with a risk and audit focus, because I've always been sort of preparing organizations for audits or, thinking about how to do things better. And I've been a chief audit executive and, I got the opportunity to really think about what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be when I grow up. I still don't know. That's why I ask everybody else, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. So when I started to think about that, I realized that, my skill set is process improvement, but also risk management, controls, remediation of issues, identifying. I've also been sort of like almost a therapist in an organization sometimes. And I see a lot of the cross-functional stuff that I know payroll also sits cross-functionally.
Oh
So
my God.
I feel that pain. So a little bit of therapy there. But so I decided that I wanted to use my talents for good and to help organizations do things better. Because I always believe, I'm an optimist. I always think there's a better way to do something. I always think, there's a brighter path, a way to automate, some way to make things better. So that's why I decided to focus my career on that. And so Melody Advisory Services was born. Melody, because my entire family is musical. I actually had vocal training myself, and I was the black sheep.
Wow.
Yeah, I was the black sheep going to school for accounting. So there we go.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's
Very
good.
musical.
Wow.
When's your birthday? When are you born?
You just want my private information? That's a real.
Not your address. Not your age or your address. No, I don't.
I was born in March. I'm a Pisces.
I knew it.
Did you?
Yes, I'm a Pisces.
oh, look at that. Kindred
Mm-hmm.
spirits. I knew that. See,
I knew it.
you got the best
Yep.
ideas. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. So
When you said that, I always like you could always get something better, think something's better. I
yeah.
was like, is this shit Pisces?
I always,
There you
yeah,
go.
no, absolutely. I'm all about problem solving, and there's always a better way. And sort of like, if something comes
Yes.
up, I'm like, yep, okay, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna do this, And then
No
also
wonder.
melody because of the musical background, but also because the melody is the through line that ties everything else together, right? So you can have
Wow.
a symphony that has all of this noise and stuff, but without that melody, none of it makes sense.
I like
So I
that.
I
believe in
love that.
cranking the through
Yes.
line so that everything else makes sense. Plus, I'm a soprano, so we sing the melody, but that's why it's the through line among
Unbelievable.
everything.
That's
I
so
love
amazing.
this
Yeah.
because yeah. Well, and because you hit on two accounts because Walt is a musical person.
Oh,
He's
cool.
written, composed, and orchestra
Interesting.
produced all kind of thing. Yeah, he's the artist and the creative, I think, of the duo here.
Nice.
And then two, because I was like, where does melody fit in? Jenny is so technical and
It's like
so right. I was just,
a
and
journey.
I'm like, where did melody come from? So I appreciate you
Yeah.
Yeah.
explaining that. And of course, you have a technical explanation for the melody piece
Well,
of
it's
it.
like I have to feel what it is, that the
Yeah.
melody is the
Agreed.
clarity within the noise, right? So
Agreed.
that's
Yeah.
what I do. It's what I bring to companies. So
I love it. I love it. Wow. Well, you want to take us away there? Go ahead, man.
So look, before we get into it, I wanted to ask you, Brian, did you have any news or to report on?
We skipped right over we're still working out segments here, folks. We just recently added the guest to the kind of beginning,
Mhm.
so we gotta fix the segment sheet here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually, and Jenny will probably appreciate these things. One is, how I always used to talk about, or I always say we have to track our wins and like when you're working for a company. I mean, and I think even with clients, you can get your opinion of this,
yeah.
Jenny. Like I say for employees, track your accomplishments throughout the year
Yeah.
because when that year end comes, performance review comes, you barely remember what you did last week. Like you can remember what you did in January.
Mm-hmm.
So, right? Or even just after your last annual review, which could have been where. So I heard on a podcast that I like called T-Boy. It's the best one yet. And they just do a quick 15-minute hit on
How
business
I'm sorry. How could it be the
stories.
best one when you have this one to listen to? Come
I know, right? But
on,
they're a big influence on
right?
how I see how we anywho. So anyway, but thank you about and so they talked about it. They called it the brag book and like how and I never coined the phrase for it, but we have to do that. Do you do that as a consultant? Do you track and like communicate back to your clients, "Hey, look at all the good things I did for you in any way?"
That I think it's yes, I think that's extremely important. Part of it is because no one else is going to speak for you. You have to speak for
Right.
yourself, right? So you have to
Yeah.
advocate for yourself and always track your accomplishments. Also, you can look back and be like, wow, I did such amazing things this year. Can you believe it? And, you
Yep.
get into that. And I'm going to say, I have the utmost respect for folks in payroll because it is one of the riskiest areas in the organization, highly regulated, under resourced,
Yeah.
just tools are all over the place. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
cross-functional and
Yep.
nobody owns it, but everybody owns it. So huge shout out
Facts.
to the folks who live in that world because it is the hardest world, I think, in the organization. Highly regulated too.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I think you definitely as a normal business practice should always be tracking the things that you've done well, your achievements, because you got to speak to it and it's your brand. That's who you are. I've done this, I've done that.
Yeah.
You should put those things down. That was a
Yeah.
long way.
What do you think,
Yes, I
Walt?
agree with you.
Yeah, no, and I look, the payroll pros all around are gonna appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
Walt, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely agree with that. And, that's something that we have always said, for the last couple of years. That's the reason why we started the podcast, right, Brian? Is we felt, payroll is one of the underserved,
Underserved. Yep.
industries that are out there. So perfect segue, kind of a perfect segue into what I had for tonight before we
Go for it.
begin. I was basically doing some research to see what % of businesses don't have a dedicated payroll person, right? And
Oh,
so
good one.
in 81% of small businesses, the owners do not have a dedicated HR or payroll
Mhm.
staff person. So that means they handle it themselves for the small business aspect. And that's typically between those businesses that have fewer than 50 employees, which is,
Oh, yeah.
so, a lot of small businesses, don't have a
They
dedicated
wear
payroll
multiple
person.
hats.
So,
That's right.
and then they
Yep.
said like 40% of them completely outsource it to a third party provider. So I thought that would have been interesting.
That is
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
think it's one of the riskiest areas, so I always worry about that kind of stuff when I hear that. I mean, my master's degree, by the way, is in enterprise risk management. So this is what I do for a living,
Oh,
right? So
it makes a lot of sense too,
that's
because that's what every time me and Jenny talk, she's, "Oh, but did you think about this? And did you do that?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." And she's, "I'm sorry, Brian." And you apologize, but I appreciate it, right?
I try.
Because you bring genuine
Yeah.
question stuff that I'm like, "Damn, I didn't think about that." Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting mad at myself, right? I
That's
didn't
why
think of it.
the anxiety is a good for my career. I get to see everything
Yes.
wrong. No, it's okay. Yeah, no, but the risk management,
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, it's not good.
that's my bread and butter. So I think
Nice.
about that. I'm like, I always say, your paperwork has to be in order and you have to have, but like when it comes to HR and payroll and stuff, that's where you go to prison. So I'm like, that's why you need,
Oh,
Yeah.
or you have huge fines, like that's why you need
yes.
expertise in that area.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to tell people that, but
Mhm.
before we go for what does the CISA mean and what does CGMA mean?
So I'm a licensed CPA in the state of New York.
Yes,
CISA
that we know, yeah.
is Certified Information Systems Auditor. And yeah, and
Ooh,
so I also have a tech background. So my
I
undergrad is in
know.
accounting and computer information systems. And I was an IT auditor at PwC for 10 years when I started my career. And then CGMA is a chartered global management accountant because I spent so much time on the management side. I was able to get that
Okay.
certification as well. So I speak
Holy moly.
I speak IT, I speak business, I speak accounting, I speak finance. I can have a debits and credits conversation and then go talk about data flows in the system and coding and access levels and stuff. So I call myself a business polyglot because I speak all the
Yes.
and
Yes.
regulatory and strategy, all that stuff. So,
Yep.
but I love
No,
it.
yeah. Yeah, I know, I know,
Wow.
and folks are gonna feel like Brian knows this lady. Yes, because we talk.
I
And
think
every
they're gonna
time we
be
talk,
like,
she's
Johnny
like,
knows Brian and Walt, man. She's so lucky to know these
"Yes,
guys.
yes,
Real
no,
lucky to know
we're
you.
lucky to know you."
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to Adrian Resto for making the
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hero
introduction.
light. Hero's light.
he's my bud, man.
Payroll is life.
Yeah.
Yes, I love Adrian.
All right. So
So, all right, well, take it away,
I'm gonna
sir.
get right to it, right? So Jenny, when did you
Yeah.
realize that payroll is not just payroll? It's an operational risk management in disguise.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
So probably pretty early on in my career, as as coming from like the audit side, as I started to learn more as an auditor, you do risk assessments and you identify the what could go wrong. And a lot of times, some functions are like, if this fails, it's not great, but it's not, it's okay. And you kind of maybe spend less time in that area. But when it comes to payroll, which is again highly regulated, under resourced, sits across multiple functions. Nobody owns it, but everybody owns it. There's so much risk there, and it's so under resourced. And you're like, yeah, the payroll back. And one company I worked for, the payroll folks sat like in this corner, like cubby, like no lights, like just in the
Yep,
closet. And I was like, but they're
disrespectful,
so
man.
important because this is like
Yeah.
people's livelihood, right?
Yep.
And people get it wrong so often. I can't even tell you how often people who don't have the right support and resources get it wrong because you have people who don't have a payroll expertise trying to calculate
Yep.
stuff and they throw it to the random finance team without a payroll person. And they, I just finished up at a big client where we like remade their entire finance function because they were just, had all sorts of chaos. And when they were like, hey, can you take on payroll? I was like, no, because that's not my area of expertise and I don't want to touch it, but I know Adrian. So I'm going to bring Adrian to help me because that
Right.
is the person who has the expertise. And they kept going, can you
Yes.
call New York State? I'm like, no, because that's not my thing. I'm not a teacher. Because I was like, it's too much risk there. I don't have enough insurance to cover myself for that because it's just too.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
But that's why I'm like, you guys are like awesome because there's so many. It's just, yeah.
That's high accolades coming from
Yeah.
you. I appreciate
Definitely.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it. And that's my
So
whole life is risk. Risk management is my thing. So I don't know.
Nice.
yeah, I know it. Yeah, firsthand, folks. Like,
Mm-hmm.
anywho, what's the moment, or was there a moment that you realized at some point? You keep saying risk is your thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was there like a moment that you realized, wait a minute, if I improve something here, it will prevent the damage there and prevent that risk?
So that is just how I operate. And having been an audit,
Like from early on before
well, I mean,
career?
no. Yes, since I was a
Okay.
child, I did Lego stuff.
That's
And I was like, if I put this Lego here, this Lego will fall off. No,
maybe. Come on.
my
That's what I'm saying.
more
Where did
value.
that
No,
where is the birth of that?
no, I've always been good at seeing patterns, and I can see the big picture of things. And obviously, as I've done more of this type of work and having done it for as many decades as I have, you get a really good understanding. And especially, like I said, coming from audit, where you look at a lot of functions across the organization, I'm very good at seeing what happens in the beginning, what might cause what, and then where it might end up. And I'm also very good at seeing like how you can prevent those things. So just part of my nature, especially in process improvement, I can see all of the pieces that need to be corrected when something happens. Oh, we want to fix this one piece. And I can sit down if I, talk to folks and be like, okay, well that's impacted by this. And then at the other side, it impacts this, which
Mhm.
is something that a lot of folks don't do necessarily very well. Not their fault. They just
That's
haven't
right.
had exposure to thinking that way, or
Mhm.
they don't really know what the
Yeah,
upstream
being
and
nice.
downstream is,
Sure.
So having done a lot of cross-functional work, there's always like thinking about the upstream and the downstream is very important. Like, where does the data come from? This is big in the payroll world because you guys get data from
Mhm.
somewhere and you have to do something with it. If you think about at the end of the day, kind of where that goes, what's the start of it? How do
Mhm.
you fix the start of it? And then so
Mhm.
you guys get clean data, and then the clean data then gets into reports and stuff. And it's kind of, did I answer your question? What I started talking about?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, no, I'm
Let me
just,
see.
it's the
Prevent
nature of
damage
what
there.
I do, having to see. I'm very big on root causes. That's a big thing in the internal audit world too. Is like, if you have a finding, hey, 5 people had inappropriate access to the payroll system, and then you can put that in an audit report, and that's great. But that's not
But what's the root cause?
what's the root cause? Are there
Mhm.
people who left the job and nobody terminated their access? Did they get the wrong access from the beginning? Did they, you have to think through all of it. And then in order to convince the company that they have to fix it, you have to tell them what it's going to impact. So if you're like, 5 people came on board, they were put in the wrong group because nobody's paying whatever it is. And then you end up finding out at the end, well, this is going to impact your reporting, or your financials are going to be wrong. Like, you sort of have to, it's part of the training of internal audit to be able to think through all of it. But you guys
Got
are,
it.
like I said, very highly improved.
Okay.
So
All right.
let me ask you, Jenny,
Yeah.
in terms of risk breakpoints, like interdepartmentally, right, between
Mhm.
HR, finance, IT, and payroll, what are those most common risk breakpoints?
Between like in the payroll flow or across just,
Across different departments like HR, finance, IT, between all those different things, where is there potential risk that maybe had,
in the cross-functional workings of those departments, it is the cross-functional workings
Yes.
of those departments.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, there's more risk you can find in each of those departments, but I've
Yes.
had lots of experiences where nobody's talking to people. I can give you an example. One of the companies I worked with, IT decided to change the size of a field, never realizing that finance relied on that field at the end of the day for what they were doing in Excel, and Excel had limitations on whatever it was. And IT never talked to finance, and then finance had all this stuff it was all like investment related, and it was just really
Wow.
important stuff that they had to report properly on. And it was just, Yeah, it was a hot mess because IT hadn't done the whole, they were like, oh, we just need an extra character on this. And then not realizing that finance relied on that and
They
then
needed the
couldn't
extra.
make business decisions based on that information. And then they couldn't do the reporting. It was just like, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it all. And, and especially in the payroll world, like you're relying on timesheets or like people's locations being correct or, that the system has been configured properly. And although maybe you may have been involved in it, maybe you weren't involved in it like you should have been because some people are like, oh, IT will do it. And you're like, they don't know what we do. Anyway, lots of places.
For
The
real.
cross-functional
Oh, I love it.
is always hard because you might report to HR and finance people are like, give me the information. And you don't have, or you report to you sort of like, it's if HR and finance had a baby, that becomes payroll.
Yep.
But then nobody wants custody, but they both want custody. So,
Man, it's so true. Like it's hitting. I know all our payroll folks out there are like, preach. Oh my God.
That's,
like when they hear it, they're going to love it.
I will tell you that is,
Oh my goodness.
I have fixed
I can't
payroll
wait.
processes, not me, but I can do a process end to end.
I'm sure you could fix it. Yeah.
Well, I'd want the expertise of one of y'all to come and do it with me.
No,
Of course.
absolutely. But I have no doubt you have the skill set for it, which brings me to my next question is what's the difference between a process problem and a control problem?
So what a control is an activity that mitigates a risk. Okay. So if you have, let's say in accounts payables, usually an easy one to talk about because everybody pays bills, right? So if you have, let's say, no control or no process around adding a new vendor to your system, you can just, anybody can add one. So I'm going to add my brother-in-law and I'm going to pay some bills. That's a risk. So the mitigation to that risk could be access levels in the system, approvals, or something that you want to do. That's the control. Process issues can include controls, absolutely, because a lot of times when you have a process issue, you are lacking controls within the process. The process issues tend to be something is paper or waiting for Susie to come back from vacation to approve it, or there's efficiency problems, or the data's not good. You're getting data, but it's garbage data, and then it's trying to feed your process, or you have to, there's all sorts of breakdowns in the process, and not just breakdowns, because sometimes they work. It's just that it's not the most efficient way of doing whatever it is. So, something that should be easy, just running a report, for example, is not because you don't have all the data or you don't have the access you need or something happens and that becomes really difficult. And like I said, you're waiting for Susie to come back to approve that item so you can move forward with your own life. So those are the process problems I see. A lot of chaos, bad data, not understanding systems that have been implemented in a way that doesn't really suit the business. I see a lot of that. And then companies spend, $1 million on implementing something that doesn't work. That becomes a process problem.
Oh my God.
And you guys have I'm like, let me tell you, I'm super lazy. I don't want to do more work than I have to. So I think everyone else is the same. So I want to streamline as many processes as possible so people can focus on the strategic, on the analysis, on the thinking instead of typing or, pushing papers around. But that's the difference between a control, but there are controls in a process. So one of my skill sets is that because I'm so focused on risk and controls and also process improvement, I embed controls into the process and make it as audit as possible. Seamlessly,
Absolutely.
I try anyway.
Yes. So you see what she does there? That's the tough part about when you talk to her, like on the phone, because it's, oh my gosh, give me a second, I can answer. And then she's rows down the road, and you're like, I gotta answer the first part first.
I'll stop talking. Just tell me.
I love it.
No,
Tell
you're
me.
good.
I love
You're
it.
good.
No, I really
I love this stuff.
appreciate
I start
you,
going.
for
I
real.
love all the ideas, so I start going.
Yes. And payroll folks are gonna love this. They're gonna geek out on
I
that.
hope so.
They're gonna be like, yes, she gets us.
I
Perform next.
know. I try to champion it whenever I can. I'm like, finance is great. You have to have
really
paperwork,
appreciate
but
that.
the where you go to jail.
Yeah.
Fined and stuff.
And this is to the true payroll crime stories we tell.
Yeah, exactly.
And yep, we can tell you,
Yeah.
people going to jail for it.
They do.
Oh, well, someone I
So,
know recently just got laid off and did not get their final paycheck in New York State along the pay period. And I was like, I know from working with Adrian, that's not a right thing to do.
Exactly.
So, interesting. Anyway.
so let me ask you this. This may be a question because I think a seasoned payroll pro would know the answer to this as well. But I
Okay.
want your viewpoint from a risk standpoint, right?
Okay.
In terms of
That's a good
audit
one.
trail, What
Mhm.
should that mean in human terms for a payroll or HR team?
So it's going to depend on, so the audit trail usually is, you're talking about in the system, right? The audit trail
Yeah.
usually is a history of what has happened. And that is important, not just for audits, but also for forensic purposes, or just so you can understand like what happened last. If you have changes,
Yes.
if you have something that came up recently and now you're like, well, when did this change? And now I have to recalculate something because it got put in wrong. Like, it's very important to have that history. It's also something that auditors love to see, because then they can be like, oh, now I can see, when the changes were, and it provides information on how controls are working. But I say
Mhm.
audit trails should be sufficient to allow you to, like I said, go back and figure out what happened and sort of figure out what the story was. Does that help you? It's like a log in the system. Like,
Yep.
usually there's an audit trail. Is that that's what you're asking about, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's so you can figure out what the heck happened here. Like, what
Yeah.
this guy's payroll like off by X amount, or what happened? When did his pay rate
Who touched
change? Or
what?
Yeah.
who touched what? That's
Yeah.
very important. Like, why? And then that can actually drive you to find a risk that's not mitigated. Wait, why did
Absolutely.
this guy change that rate? Because he shouldn't have access to do that. So then you can be like, the root cause is
Yes.
this guy had access. He was looking up
Yes.
something and accidentally hit the button, like back in my
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
early days, very early when I was like a baby IT auditor, there was some senior level person who had access to something and went to delete something. And instead of putting the
Ooh.
number 8, they had put the star
Mm-mm.
and blew away a whole thing. This
Yeah.
is back in the 90s. So blew away a whole thing. I was like, that's why you shouldn't have too much access. It's a risk. But anyway,
I give senior level access view only.
yep. And they're
You
going to ask
can't
for
touch
more.
anything.
They'll want more, but you can push back and say, no, Jennie Wallace says no. You can't.
Nah. Yeah, Jenny said,
So
this
I
is
know,
what
and I know
I'm
that was
gonna say
a
now.
very, it seemed like a simple question and that most people that are listening may know. But I
Mhm.
think, sometimes we could just be so focused on processing that
Mhm.
we're going to get it done. And then I know there's some people that I've even spoken to, some colleagues that Brian and I
Yep.
have spoken to, and they were like, hey, they mentioned something as far as a risk, to a business owner or to someone in the C-suite. And the
Mhm.
person in the
Mhm.
C-suite that just did not get it and was like, I don't care, do what I said.
Yep.
Yep.
That is one of
Yep.
the biggest challenges. And I'll tell you that there are lots of departments that have that problem with management, just only because.
This episode is brought to you by Stouffer's. Here comes three-time juggling champion Natalia Rogers. She's juggling law school, her TA job. Oh, narrowly catches the laundry. What's that fourth ball? Parents unexpectedly showed up at dinner time? Is that too much for Natalia? Not with Stouffer's Chicken Alfredo and its mouth-watering mix of Asiago, Romano, and Parmesan. When you're juggling 4 things at once and the clock strikes dinner, think Stouffer's.
You have to get them to care. If you're trying to get resources for something, you're trying to do something a different way. And I know that that's something that payroll runs into, finance runs into it, operations runs into, not as much because usually they're the ones making money, but a lot of internal audit runs into it all the time, because we're always trying to find, you guys should implement a control. I don't care. Like, it's too much work. Like, so some of it is about continuing to. So that's too much work. I don't want you. So like you continue to like bringing it as a risk and thinking about why should management care. And even if it's, you're going to have to pay a huge fine if you don't fix this, or, we're going to get sued, or this is what the law says. Like,
They don't believe it. They don't believe it.
well, just have
It's
them
that's
call
the
me and I'll yell at
problem.
them for you. I'll go full
I,
crazy,
I'm gonna.
crazy mama bear on them if you want me
I'm gonna, cause they never believe. I'm like, I know people, like, I know.
to. I know.
Oh,
It's hard, but
so
it helps to have a champion. Like, so positioning the leader of payroll. This is something I also like to do, is strategic coaching and thinking about how you build your brand. Is you can, well, a mentor is a great idea. A champion is what you really want, because a champion is someone who speaks for you and pulls you with them, right? Because I can
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
I'm important, like all day, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Someone else doesn't think.
Yeah.
Also think I'm important.
No doubt.
That's a great point.
So having a champion, or starting to try to find, usually the CFO can help, unless that's the one telling you no, but CFOs tend to be very focused on risk. Internal audit can help you, like compliance can help you, legal can possibly help you, depending on what you're finding.
But I think the challenge that I'm seeing now is, as I kind of start swimming in the businesses under 1,000 headcount,
Mhm.
is there is no internal audit, there is no
No,
legal, there is none of that. And it's like,
no, it's
we're
hard to.
good. We're never going to get audited. I had a gentleman a few years ago. I mean, he was retiring
Mhm.
and he's like, Brian, I never got audited in my 50 years doing this, blah, blah, blah. I'm
Well,
not
you
going to
were
get
lucky.
audited.
That
And
was
Just
it.
kidding.
So,
I was like, dang, yeah. I mean, please don't tell other companies that. Like, that is not.
well, he was very
You know what I
lucky, that
mean?
guy.
You
It was
got
not
lucky.
because he did
Yeah.
everything right. It was because he was lucky, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, of course, we're at payroll, money, data, people, compliance.
Private information,
What's
it hits all of
what's a
the
silent? Oh,
all the buckets,
there you
all of
go.
them. Sorry, go ahead.
Look, you read my mind. No, what's a silent risk there that you see that people don't really think about?
The private information is a big one.
Oh,
Yep. I mean, like I said, the
PII.
regulatory risk, data risk, not paying people properly there's tons of risks. The silent one, I think, is about. I think there's maybe it depends on kind of who the organization is. Like you said, a lot of folks are just like, I have to get my job done, and of course, the process is not where it
Mhm.
should be, so it takes you more time to do the process instead of actually like having time to analyze. So there might be maybe there are reconciliations that are not being done, and there's a risk, like you mentioned the story about the person I knew who was like, "Oh, I just take these 2 reports and I like pick a number in between."
Oh my gosh, tell us.
Okay, so I had a client. I had a client where, we were going through some stuff, and the lady who did payroll was not a payroll person. She was sort of like a very nice lady who just had worked there for 30 years, and she was the one who did it. She was a lovely, lovely person, right? Very nice
Mhm.
person. Had been trained 30 years ago that this is what you do, and so she pulled 2
Oh,
different reports from ADP that were supposed to be based on the same data, and was supposed to report on a quarterly basis, like on the number of employees, whatever it was. She just was like, each report had a different number. And when my team
Wow.
was like, why is there a different number? And she was like, I don't know. And they said, well, which one do you report? Oh, I just do what my manager taught me 30 years ago. I just look at this one and this one, and I pick a number in the middle, and then I report that. And I was like,
Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
this
wow.
is regulatory reporting. This is okay. Well,
Wow.
that was a risk. But that was because, she didn't have expertise in payroll and had just
That's the
done what
way
she
I
was
did
told.
always did it.
That's just the way she did it. Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong
Holy
with that. We
moly.
need
Famous
those
last
people.
words.
We need those
Yo.
into those like knowledge people who have tons of institutional
Yes.
knowledge. We need those people, but
Yes.
we
Yeah.
need also people to guide them, to teach them new ways and stuff. So
We need those folks to be open to new
yeah,
just as much as we can be open to and appreciate the legacy of it all.
yeah,
Like we have to find that middle ground and appreciate each other.
yep. I would say I
So,
think everybody brings something valuable to the table.
yeah, for sure. For
Wow.
sure.
All right. So then in terms of mitigation, right?
Mhm.
Could you give us 3 controls that every team needs, even if they're a small team?
It's gonna depend. I'm always gonna say it depends. I'm kind of like an attorney, and I'm like, it depends. It depends on what
Payroll, it depends. It really does. Yeah.
It depends. Yeah. It depends on the setup. Obviously, making sure payroll is complete and accurate is huge. So you're going to want to make sure you have controls around the setup of the system, the reconciliations that you do, timesheets, all the things that make it complete and accurate. You're going to want to have regulatory compliance, which is another big risk, I think. And I kind of said that a bunch of times. So I apologize for repeating myself.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, because each of those could have tons of controls in them. Biggest risk, yes. And then there's the PII, like I said, the PII, the lack of resources. If I were doing an audit, I'd probably see a lot of that stuff. So I guess it's hard to say the 3 biggest risks, because there are a lot of big risks in that area. But completeness and accuracy, make sure people get paid on time according to law, regulations, timesheets, making sure that's accurate. You're always chasing managers. Did you prove this yet? Did you prove that yet? Pushing back on management if they're not paying the way they're supposed to. And I've seen that before too. No, you have to pay them on this schedule. That's what the law says. And they're like, what? So
Gotcha.
Data, basically.
yeah. And the completeness and accuracy of data is a tough one, because it's not in your control, really, is what it is. A lot of that is not in your control. It's something
Yeah.
you get fed
Yep.
from somewhere else, but then you have to
Yep.
take the blame for it if it's wrong. So you're getting payroll from somewhere, payroll data from
Yeah.
somewhere. You have to do stuff with it. And you're like, you can't be like, Joe didn't come in on Tuesday. He wasn't here. That's not your job. So you just you
Yeah.
run with what the manager approved. And then, well, Joe didn't come on Tuesday. Well, how was I supposed to know that? It's in the timesheet. It says he was here. I don't know. Anyway.
Yep. Wow.
Yep.
All right, Brian.
Let's see. Is there such thing as a control that doesn't create red tape,
Oh my
or
goodness.
is it like the apps? Is it kind of like that's what you're doing?
So I am one of the things I truly believe in is right sizing controls. You're always
Okay.
That's big because I spent a lot of time in startup world. Like when I worked for the Coca-Cola company, I worked for their unit Glasso, which is smart water, vitamin water. They'd been acquired.
Oh.
Yeah, I created their control structure so they could pass audits with the big parent
Ooh.
company. And I will say, Coca-Cola is I'm always very impressed with that organization because they're so controls focused. Most people come in through audit actually and learn controls. So
Oh.
anyway, they were big controls. And Glasso was this little tiny startup that was like, everybody have a bottle of water. Great.
Did you get to meet 50 Cent?
I did not, but I did get to tap the
Dang.
flavor. He was in the office, but I wasn't there that
Uh,
day. I came to for the
Oh
purchase,
man.
which is the problem because there are a lot of very
Dang.
nice cars in that parking lot, not mine.
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, so like I had to take Coca-Cola requirements. So you had this and this, these duties have to be segregated and stuff like that. And I'd be like, yeah, that's super easy when you have a department of 100 people, but I only have 2 people in the same department, in this little entity. So how do I do that? So
Wow.
I've learned a lot about right sizing, like having enough controls to mitigate risk, but not so many that it is red tape. If you have controls just because audit told you had to have one, or because you think this is what you need, call me because
Yes,
you
I've
can
seen
think
that.
through it. One of the audit reports I
Yes.
wrote when I was a chief audit executive at a prior company was hey guys, you can stop doing this thing. And they were like flabbergasted. They're like, audit's telling us to stop doing a thing. I was like, yeah, it doesn't help you. There's no value. It's just
Love it.
paperwork. And they were like, what? So my answer again is it depends, but there's always form over substance controls. And you have to think about what am I really mitigating here? And again, you can always call me. We can
I
talk
love
through
it.
it, but it
I love
should
it.
be dedicated to what. And if there are multiple controls that do the same thing, you can decide if one's better than the other. The whole
Yeah.
philosophy of detective and preventive controls. We could talk about all the stuff. I could talk about controls for the next 4 hours, but
Oh my God.
I love it. I love it.
a whole
So,
different pod. But
yeah, look, we got to have you back again. So,
I would love
look,
to.
in terms of metrics that you watch,
Yeah.
could you speak more on those? Do you look at reconciliations, exception, volume, manual overrides, things like approval, latency? You look at those things?
So in terms of metrics specifically would not be necessarily something that as like a controls risk person. It's
Okay.
more whether management's looking at those metrics and what they care about doing. So
Got it.
you want to like whatever, like if management's objective is to do X, then we want to make sure that the controls are in place to do X. Does that help you? I
Yeah.
know I don't keep track of, I wouldn't necessarily keep track of the metrics myself, but I'd want to make sure that the metrics that management found valuable were being captured. That helps. I don't know if that answers your
I
question.
agree with that.
They did.
Is that like a politician? I just
Yeah,
talked
for
around
sure.
it and didn't answer your question. Answer? 'Cause
You did
You
good.
did great.
Cheney for president.
Jennie Wallace.
Nice.
Sounds like that's a good presidential name.
It is. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, I had a random spam text about whether I wanted to run for office, and I was like, I don't know.
Might be a sign.
No
Might be a
way.
sign.
I think it's like, who knows what it is? And maybe they'll be like, yeah, well, give me your credit card. Who knows? I did.
Oh,
It's probably one of them.
gotcha.
Hey, you want to run for office?
I've never heard of that one, so you might want to follow up on it.
Maybe.
What do you think about spreadsheets? Do they cause liability? Do they cause any risk?
Again, it depends. I like to reduce as many manual interventions as possible because if the system is set up properly, you have lower risk of error. Like the more fingers you get in there, the worse you're controlled. The more risk there is because people could press something wrong or type in the wrong thing. I think spreadsheets can be amazing if they're used properly. I love Excel. It's like one of my favorites. I've gotten actually very good at it. Me and ChatGPT were best friends, so it taught me a lot.
Oh yeah.
Using Excel
yeah.
anyway, and now I'm like building things I didn't even know I could. I think it's great if it's used properly. I think the important thing when it comes to using Excel for an auditor to look at your Excel is understanding like where your numbers came from, what are the formulas, no hard typing, no hard coding numbers in there, do formulas, like stuff like that. So I think you can use Excel very, very well if you use it properly and don't just retype printed PDFs to make reports. Nobody has.
Oh my gosh. I've seen
I have
people
seen
do
that
things
myself.
with Excel. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's
Like they would do the math on a calculator and type it into Excel.
Yes, they would. And then as an auditor or as a finance person or somebody who's trying to review what you're doing, because finance may have to review what you're doing to get it into the system the way they need it. And I can't see what it is if it just says
Hey.
like 3, 7, 12.
Right, Brian and Jenny, there's more than one way to solve a problem, right?
That's right. There you go. But yeah, if you take
Yeah,
the
there's
video
the wrong way and the right way.
from
That's the more than one way.
and say whatever, it's like, to me, it's all about the story and like the audit trail and the history. So if I can see where your calculations came from, that's great. And then there's also, if you're locking down the right fields and also security around the idea of, like I said, a lot of PII, a lot of private information in there, birth dates and all sorts of stuff. And it's amazing to me how people just email spreadsheets with people's social security numbers in it. I'm just, oh my goodness
Yes.
gracious.
Oh my gosh.
Let's not do that.
Yes.
But it
Yes.
happens because, but then again, see, as I think about that, I start to go back to what's the process? Why are they sharing that information for a reason? Why was it set up through email? I start to go to the process of they're sending that information on email, but why? Who's asking for it? What do they need to send it for? Can it be done through a secure portal? Like I start to go into what's the process that started the need for that email, and can we refigure out how to do that such that it's more secure? I think the biggest thing I would say, and a lot of I know payroll folks think this way, and hopefully, but like, how could we do this better? Why am I sending this thing? And this is actually something I'd like to tell people too. I taught one session of an accounting class like last year, and I was like, ask, don't just accept. Just ask, like, why am I doing this? What is it I'm doing? Like, think about where did the numbers come from? Why do I?
Adobe Acrobat Studio, your new foundation. Use PDF spaces to generate a presentation. Grab your docs, your permits, your moves. AI levels up your pitch, gets it in a groove. Choose a template with your timeless cool. Come on now, let's flex those tools. Draft, design, deliver, make it sing. AI builds the deck so you can build that thing. Do that, do that, do that with Acrobat. Learn more at adobe.com/do-that-with-acrobat.
What am I doing with them? Why am I giving this report? What does this person want? And sometimes when you know that, you could be like, oh, I bet they would appreciate it if I put a total here. Or what if I, did this other thing that might, that's a good way to show your value, I guess.
I love it.
I love that. So for my final takeaway for you,
Okay.
our final takeaway, what's one thing that you would like for HR, payroll teams, any team that is pulled into that cross-functional chaos and that may present themselves or find themselves dealing with potential risk? What's one thing that you want them to take away or remember from this episode?
One thing to collaborate, to remember that you're in the same team. Because, there's a lot of, no, that's my area. No, that's your area. No, that, ownership conflict. And no, I own this part. No, I own this part. I'm not sharing that data with you. And I'm not giving you this. And I'm not going to help you out because that's my system. There's obviously sometimes conflict between leadership folks just because of their own. But I would say you're all working for the same company. You have to be collaborative. Cross-functional only works if the cross-functions work together. And that's sometimes why they take HR and put it under the CFO in smaller companies, because then HR and finance works together better. I've seen that. But it's about trying to, and maybe this is sometimes like your leadership has to work that out, but everybody works for the same company. The goal is the same. You want the company to be compliant. You want them to do the right thing. You want a strong organization. So everybody stays employed, So fighting over that stuff is not worth it, I would say.
Yeah.
And then the data
Collaboration.
I like that.
That's my philosophy. Put it out.
All right. So if folks want you to help, after this, I would imagine so. They need you to help.
Please,
Where can
definitely.
people follow you and connect with you?
LinkedIn is a good place to find me. I wish I should have put a sign up or something. Like I have a website, Melody Advisory.
No, we'll put it in the show links too. We'll put
Okay,
it in the show
perfect.
notes.
I have my website, melodyadvisory.com. You can email me at Jennie, JENNIE at melodyadvisory.com. There's also my LinkedIn is a good place to reach me. I'm always there. I haven't done as much posting this since 2026 started, but I plan to, but I try to write little tips and tricks and ideas and stuff about process and whatever.
That is true. Yeah, there's times that I'm like waiting for her to email me back or call me back, and she's like hitting me on LinkedIn, and I'm like, I just texted you. Why are you
It depends on
texting me on LinkedIn?
whatever app is open on my phone at the moment. I'm
Oh
like,
my
oh,
gosh.
it's a little bit impulsive.
So
before.
funny.
I blame the ADHD, but yeah, so that's fine. LinkedIn is good. Like anywhere, I have all that stuff, and I'm always on because I don't like, this is my hobby. Like my husband's like, why do you want to work? Don't you want to come? I'm like, no, working's fun for me.
Oh,
I enjoy solving.
Saying, yeah, pretty much.
When you
I
love
was
what you
reading,
do, it's not
I was
work,
reading
right?
governmental audit standards
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
a Saturday one time because I needed to learn them. And husband was like, what are you doing?
Oh,
Reading this. Very interesting. Great. So, anyway.
Yes, I was just telling my wife that on Saturday it just passed. She sees me and I'm sitting down. She's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Then later on, I was like, "I'm struggling to relax.
Mm-hmm.
I have to intentionally tell myself just be still and chill
Sure.
for a moment."
It's hard when you have a passion for what you do, which I know you guys
And
do.
even with and even that, I had to keep my notebook next to me. So if I had a
An
thought, I
idea.
had to get it
Oh,
down so it
wow.
wouldn't drive me crazy. Yes,
Yep, you got to get
because
it
that's
out
the
of
only
your
way I
head.
can relax.
I,
Yep.
I started when I finished up a
Um,
large client that, I kind of had some downtime after that. And I was like, I don't know how to relax. I don't know. I should be doing something. I need to relax, but more productively or something. I couldn't.
Oh,
What
gosh.
exactly?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was like, can I just be
It's so
productive while I'm
true.
relaxing? What should I be doing?
You can.
I try.
That's hobbies. Those are called hobbies, Jenny.
Working is my hobby. LinkedIn is. No, I'm just joking.
Oh
I
God.
listen to murder podcasts. That's a hobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
I
There you
watch
go.
shows.
I listen to Drink Champs and hip hop and watch organized crime documentaries
But
usually.
I like that stuff too. I like the because like the mind of those folks is always so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly right.
I don't know what
Yep,
goes
my
through. I
little
can't
one lives.
imagine. Oh, and I have a murder family too. So my father's cousin murdered his wife.
Oh, my God.
Oh my gosh, no. Don't look
You
up.
have the
Don't look
most
'em up,
interesting
people.
stories.
I know.
For
I have a
real.
cousin married to a rock star. I have an opera singer. I have like
Oh my
psychologists and
goodness.
like I have
Okay, now people are gonna be like, "Whoa, who is this?"
Yeah.
and I have my my father's cousin murdered his wife. There's all sorts of interesting people
Oh
on
my
my.
God.
And I have
There
doctors.
you go.
I have
The
like
most
doctors
interesting
and
woman in the world.
psychologists and musicians in my family. Stuff like
Okay.
that.
There you go. Oh my
Well, I'm an
goodness.
accountant. My cousin, who's an attorney, and I are both like, we are the black sheep. So
Oh, there you go.
Clearly boring. Goodness
There you go.
gracious.
Jenny, this has been
All
fantastic.
right, we like to wrap it up with a game, and we play this or that. You can pick both, either, neither, whatever you like, just for a risk story strikes you.
Okay.
I'll take the first three this time, Walt, and let you end it off
Okay.
for us. Word or Google Docs?
Word.
Coffee or tea?
I like both, but I would say I drink tea lately.
All right.
Okay. Tropical vacation or a mountain getaway?
I like the
I
cold.
feel like I know
So I'll
this.
say mountain.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm not
no.
I'm not a heat person.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I knew that because there's a bunch of times that we talked and you were like, I'm in the cold. I'm in the cold.
I
I'm
love
going to shout out the place that you go. And I'm like,
I
dang,
keep
she's
my
like, and so I knew what
my
that.
house like 64 degrees. It's great.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh.
Yeah.
Like polar bears.
I love it.
So, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Would
My
you-
husband hates it. He's a night owl, and I'll be like, "Hey, let's do this amazing things first thing in the morning." He's no way I'm sleeping.
Same thing. Opposite
Yeah.
track, right?
Yeah.
The same
You need
here.
the balance. All right. So,
Yep.
do you prefer auditing or being audited?
Interesting. I would say probably auditing, but only because I do it in a nicer way. I don't like the whole audit industry. Like I am an auditor and I've been audited. I feel like as an auditor, because of the way I do it, I can be much more helpful. And I feel like there are auditors who are not quite as enlightened as I am and may or may not follow my same pattern. So they are may not be as helpful as I.
I love
I've
it.
actually been terrified by auditors once before after having been in the industry for 25 years. I'm like, oh, we'll be best friends. Yeah, no, I was terrified.
Oh my
But I'm
gosh.
working on that with them too. So don't worry about
Okay,
that.
good.
Oh
I
my
gave them a lecture at the last conference.
Yeah, that's right. Throw them out. All right. So my last one, Celine Dion or Adele.
That's a tough one. They both have amazing voices. They're different though. That's why it's hard. Like Celine Dion,
Could be both.
very
Could
much.
be-
I guess I have to say Adele.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like Adele too. All right, Walt, finish us off with the quote, man. I said the last one.
All right.
On the last
This is a quote
episode.
by Sarah Blakely. I think she founded
Spanx, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yup.
So this quote says, "Don't be intimidated by what you don't know. That can be your greatest strength, and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else."
So fitting, I think.
I like it. That's beautiful.
I like it a lot too. Yup.
That's something
Nice.
I know you have to close, but I was going to say I learned
No, it's
in
okay.
my career that I remember when I was a junior person, I'll say junior person because I'm still young.
That's right.
I was afraid to ask questions because I thought that would come across as me not. But I had a boss.
Yeah.
I was so astonished that he was just like, well, what does that mean? And why would you and I was like, you can ask questions.
Oh,
So
my
I
goodness.
learned that. Like,
I think it's a superpower when you figure out that you can and that you should,
Yeah.
and that you shouldn't be afraid of it. Like,
Otherwise, you're
'cause
like,
so
what
many
if
folks?
they think I don't know that thing and I should know
Yeah.
it? And he was just like, well, what
Yeah.
is that? And I was like, you can do that? That's amazing to me.
No, I'm always like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, what do you mean, or what do you mean by that? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just you gotta be able, because that disconnect, right?
Mhm.
That's that audit piece. You gotta audit the
Yep.
disconnect.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I have actually. I've done
Yeah.
audits of disconnects
Oh my
between departments.
gosh. Yeah, I bet. Oh my gosh.
I would
Yeah,
love
we
to,
gotta
I
have
would
to
love to like
have you back.
get questions from the audience and like work through solutions on how to, like if they send in, hey, I'm struggling with this
Ooh,
thing,
that's a
like how
great
to help
idea.
with it.
No, let's do so. Walt and I lead Payroll Support Network US.
Mhm.
The founders are in the UK,
Okay.
and we got permission to lead it in the US. And I just did a poll on how often we should do some type of group, and they said monthly.
Mhm.
The group is on LinkedIn. So maybe you could be our first group thing is, hey, we got this master auditor. She just wants questions
Process
and
improvement.
problems to solve.
Let's work
Come
through
on.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah,
I'm
why
so
not?
serious. The group is growing like crazy. We're almost up to 500 members.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and it's we have to live by the pillars of the group. It's like
Mhm.
it's not about money. The webinar will not be charged.
Yep.
We won't charge. We do a free 30 minutes of something that folks can gain from. And I think you should be the first guest,
I would love
first
to.
one, inaugural, and just
I would love to.
and
I would love to.
oh, let's do it.
It's funny.
Perfect.
I broke my
perfect.
ankle like a year and a half ago, and I was in the hospital. And the lady who came over to do my paperwork, she was talking through some issues. For some reason we started chatting because I like to talk to people. I'm an extrovert. You can't tell. So we were talking. I was telling her something about somebody I was working with. I had a challenge, and she was starting to tell me. And I gave her coaching. I gave her like career coaching, and she was like, "This is amazing. I
Oh,
would have
wow.
paid for it." I was like, I like coaching for the masses. I'm all about that. Only executives seem to get help with coaching. But I was like, I was in the hospital with a broken ankle, and I was like, here's how you handle your manager.
Oh,
And she
I
was like,
bet.
that's amazing.
oh my gosh.
I love it. Yes. Jody, we're going to make you proud. Awesome.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Yeah. So let's wrap it up, folks. We love everybody.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Jenny,
you.
thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for
Amazing.
having me.
And I'm going to hold you to it. And we'll have
Absolutely.
you back. And we'll have you do PSN. Yes.
I
we're
would
gonna do
love
it.
to. I love
This
I
is
love this
awesome.
kind of stuff. I love it.
This is awesome. This is great. Yeah. I've been trying to think of what to do, and boom, we hit it.
See,
All right, folks. Until the next time, please share, subscribe, and tell your friends, your mom, your dad, your cousins. Nope, not everybody knows. There's still payroll people out there that don't know about the show. Share it. There are payroll salespeople that I come across. I never heard of payroll podcasting, and I'm like, really? So please, just keep sharing, folks.
Yes, thank you.
Until the next time.
Thank you.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number, 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number, save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.